Hello, this is Joe Pryor of the virtualrealestateteam.com in Oklahoma City. And this is the third in the series that I'm doing for a guide to first-time homebuyers and how to go about purchasing your first home. Now, in the first two videos, we did an overview. We started with our first meeting in the first video, and we ended up at the closing table in the second video. Now, the next videos that are coming up are to fill in the blanks, to give you just a little bit more detail. And so I want to make sure that you completely understand the process to start with before we ever get together. So let's start with that first meeting. What's that first meeting all about? Now, if you listen to that, you kind of got some details in the first video, but really to me, what it is to build your financial future. Now, I've been a realtor for 21 years. I've sold a lot of houses, thousands of houses actually. And so I really believe that it's not just getting a home under contract. It is making sure that that home makes sense and that you start out on the first home with a good experience. So, the first example that I gave of that, or the example in the first video was, well, a front-end ratio that all mortgages have that says what's the maximum best case scenario for a house payment, and that was $1,500 in that video. Then we went and said, well, then we go to the back-end ratio. And the back-end ratio is when we add in your structural bills, those interest-sensitive bills like credit cards, cars, student loans, etc., that you're paying on, and we put those payments in there. And what we did is we said, well, there's so much payments that it's $1,300 now because that takes precedence over the $1,500. So now we're at $1,300, and then I said, but maybe we ought to go to $1,100 on your house payment, and here's the reason why. Because most of the people I deal with that are first-time home buyers are young people. And you've been through college, maybe you're still paying on the student loans, you're at the acquiring stage, and so you may be using your credit cards in order to do that. Also, maybe that helps you put some money back so you have the down payment. But the problem is that some of these loans have high interest rates. They have 18, 21%. Now, I want to make sure that not only do you have enough money for closing costs and your down payment, I also want to make sure that you have a reserve fund, that you have kind of that rainy day fund. And normally I recommend 90 days, that if you have 90 days where you can make all your bill payments, then that's really, really good. Now, the other thing is that when you're buying a home, you don't have a landlord anymore, so it's now your responsibility. The landlord's not there to fix it, and you're going to need to consider that in buying your first home. Now, the other thing is this. That $200 that we're talking about, excuse me just a second. This is little Henri, my poodle, and he just, like I say, demands to be in the video. So we said $1,100, and we're going to use that $200 in some particular way. So, you know, let's take credit card debt, and I always believe that you should pay down debt. I'm one of those Dave Ramsey sort of guys, that you should cut out your credit cards pretty much. But those credit cards have high interest rates. They have 18 to 21%. So rather than maybe putting extra money paying principal down, which at 5.25% to me doesn't make sense if you have credit card debt, which is at 18 to 21%. So I want to take part or all of that $200. Now remember, we have that back-end ratio, which means that you're paying the minimum payment on the bills, which may be the interest payment. And what I want to do is pay down the principal at 18 to 21%, because at that point, that's really an 18 to 21% return on investment. So we want to get those bills down. We want to put you in a really, really good situation. So that's why I have that first meeting with you, not just to qualify you to an FHA or a VA or a conventional loan and to make sure that you have the cash, make sure you have the income in order to qualify for a loan. I want to make sure it makes good sense for you. You know, as many houses as I've sold, sometimes I do recommend that maybe you ought to wait. Maybe it's not the time for you to buy a home because not everybody is ready to do that. But if you are, I want to deal with how that affects you. I don't want to have a situation where you're in trouble because you've maxed yourself out. Now, one of the things I'm going to be dealing with in a later video is also, I really want you to talk to you about resisting the temptation to get into further debt. I don't want you to go crazy at Mathis Brothers in Oklahoma City, a furniture store that's a really good furniture store, but you know, all of a sudden you've got a $7,000 credit line and you got a bunch of furniture and just other things that you're doing. I want to make sure that you know that I'm there for you even after the sale so that we can talk about these things because I do care. Now, before I sound completely like Mahatma Gandhi, like all I do is I have this altruistic attitude, which I do, I want to give a little self-serving message for you here for just a minute. You know, if I don't do a good job for you, if I don't maybe get you into a house with a little bit of equity or get you into a situation that you can truly afford, help you build your financial future, guess what? You're not going to refer anybody to me, or when it's time to sell that home and move up to a nicer home, you're not going to call me. And believe me, I want you to call me. I do care about your financial future, but I also want you to know that it's in my best interest to care for your financial future, because that's the reason why I've been in business for 21 years. That's the attitude I believe that we should take. So, the next video, our next few videos are going to deal with some more aspects to help you out to understand all the details that go into buying your first home. So until then, this is Joe Pryor with the virtualrealestateteam.com in Oklahoma City, where we deliver traditional real estate value with the speed of technology, especially for first-time home buyers.